What's up, wrestling fans? My name is Aaron. This is Wrestling by Wardridge, and I am joined today by Steve from SCW. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me on your channel. It's great to be here. It's been great to do collabs previously, but it's really
Yeah,
exciting to do one here. And the topic you've given me today, I tell you what, I could have had worse homework. Thank you very much.
It's all good, mate. It's all good. I'm really glad to have you on the channel. Obviously, this is my first collab, so yeah, it means a lot. Firstly, I just wanted you to just let the viewers know a little bit about your channel. I'm sure most of my subscribers are your subscribers too, but just in case, just want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for letting me plug it. It's SCW, the Wrestling Channel on YouTube now. Pretty much just a lot of opinions, really, Q&As, fantasy booking, predictions, reviews, that sort of stuff, really. Just talking wrestling, chatting wrestling, collabing with good people like your good self as well. Yeah, everyone, if you get an opportunity, please go and check it out. It's I'd like to think it's a lot of fun, and hopefully there's something for everybody, whether it's WWE, AEW, NXT, Impact. I'd like to cover a big variety, but yeah, like you say, we do actually, we've collabed before, and yeah, we do have some probably some similar followers and that, and hopefully some people are checking out your stuff as well, and your top fives, I absolutely love them each and every week. Certainly some of my favorite content on YouTube.
No, I appreciate that, mate. Yeah, just to echo what you said, I love your content as well. I watch all of your videos. I definitely recommend anyone to check it out because you do cater for everybody. It's just a great variety of different kind of content. So yeah, subscribe to Steve if you haven't. Right, so in today's video, what we're going to be doing is going over our top Stone Cold Steve Austin matches, which is the homework we were talking about earlier, and we'll be asking some questions along the way, obviously, as well. So this is the first episode of what I like to call Legacy Sessions. So yeah, I'll start off, if that's okay with you, Steve.
Absolutely.
So, sweet. So my third favorite match is The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin from WrestleMania 17 in a singles. It's a no DQ match, actually, isn't it? Because obviously, when they entered the match, it was announced it was a no DQ match. Yeah, obviously one of the biggest matches of all time. This is the reason why it is one of my favorite Stone Cold matches. It just has that big fight feel to it, doesn't it? You know, when they make their entrances, it's just going to be absolutely massive. I was actually really glad it was turned into a no DQ match as well, because it is like off Stone Cold Steve Austin's wheelhouse. I always feel like he does perform best in those matches because he is a great brawler. That is something he's always been great in. Yeah, and the match tells a great story of obviously Stone Cold's heel turn, like slow heel turn. Obviously, the pinnacle of that is when Vince McMahon comes out and Rock just showing off his resilience all throughout the match as well. And something else I did like about this match, which is why it is one of my favorites, is just Stone Cold Steve Austin's facial expressions. I thought they were absolutely fantastic every time The Rock would kick out of like a chair shot or a stunner or something like that. What do you think of this match, Steve?
It's absolutely incredible. It's one of my favorites as well. I love the message that goes into the match. It's almost a match you need to watch twice, actually, because you hear those words in the video package beforehand where Steve Austin says, I need to beat you, Rock. I need to beat you more than anything, more than you'll ever know. And to go into that match then, obviously, and see Steve Austin in his hometown, probably the best WrestleMania of all time, the place in Texas absolutely erupts for the hometown hero, and he's acting like a heel from the start of the match. And it's just, you just see those sort of wheels turning to the point like where he's doing certain things on the outside where but you know, the Rock gets busted open to the point then where the Rock has to do the same back as well. I just love the way that the whole message and the story of the match, it really is something really special. And of course, as it comes towards the end there with Vince McMahon coming in, you would say you don't see it coming, because obviously you've had that attitude era, the whole attitude era, where it's been Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon the whole way through. And to see then that turn, you always feel Texas didn't want to believe it at first. And Jim Ross's commentary is just something electric. It's something very special. And it's a match that I'm going to hold very dear to my heart.
Yeah, it's fantastic commentary, isn't it? It's just Jim Ross at his best, to be honest. Definitely. So the second question that I'll be asking with these matches is, what was my favorite spot or moment of the match? And for this one, it was when The Rock hit Stone Cold with a Stone Cold Stunner. That popped me huge, and the crowd just were absolutely electric for that. That was so awesome, and it just made for such a good near fall as well. Like, absolutely amazing spot for me. Did you have a favorite spot in that match at all?
I think it has to be. I mean, like I said, I like the continuation. I like the fact that The Rock has to get to Steve Austin's level. He kind of
Mm.
realizes here, hang on, like I'm in a fight, and this guy really is as desperate. So I really like that. But I do love the term because, like I say, that moment where the fans like they almost feel like it's almost a Vince turns babyface. They kind of refuse to acknowledge the heel turn at first. So that kind of moment, it's such a iconic moment in wrestling history. I feel that for me can't be ignored. So I think I will go with that moment, especially as we mentioned the commentary already, and just Jim Ross going like, "Why,
Mm.
Steve? Why?" You know, just that real passion. So that will always stay with me throughout forever. And it's certainly a WrestleMania that I always cherish and look back and go over. So I think it has to be that heel turn moment, and
Mm.
just Steve Austin running off and hitting that steel chair on the Rock as well. Just those sort of sequence of maneuvers that piece everything together. That story, that reveal that we just didn't see coming.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. That was such a shock and heel turn. But that was in Texas, wasn't it? So, like, the fans kind of didn't really boo him. So, but
Mm.
there you go. Right. So the third question that I'll be asking these matches is obviously in my other videos. I rate my matches with 5 different elements, which is story, psychology, work rate, excitement, and match structure. So the question that I'll be answering is which of these 5 elements did I think was the best? And I'll be asking you the same for your match. So for this match, I think my favorite element was the excitement of the match. Like, I just thought that the match just had incredible drama throughout the whole thing. So many great near falls and submission spots. Like, I love that the sharpshooter that Rock put on Austin gave me. I thought that was quite a nice callback to the Bret Hart match. Personally, obviously Austin was covered in the blood and just looked phenomenal. And yeah, just the crowd, like I mentioned earlier, but I don't think this might be the loudest in terms of the fans. Like, it was just so loud. It was absolutely madness. But yeah, that's probably my favorite element for this match. Do you think you'd agree with that one?
Yeah, I have to agree up there with the excitement. I mean, of course, WrestleMania 17. That just going into it, you knew it was the 2 biggest stars, and obviously WCW,
Mm.
ECW had finished. This was the pinnacle. This was the top of what it was. But I mean, I've mentioned story as well, so I suppose I would have to give a different answer, just so I'm not copying yourself. I think I'd have to go for the storytelling of the match.
Yeah, definitely. It's a fantastic story, isn't it? Right from the off. Okay,
Absolutely.
so the fourth question would be, what did the match mean for Steve Austin's career? And I just think this match just cemented Austin as just one of the greatest of all time. Obviously, he hadn't, he wasn't really close to retiring just yet. Had a couple more years left in the tank, but today is one of the biggest matches of all time, and yeah, I just cemented him as one of the best. The magnitude of the match was just absolutely massive as well. It was just the pinnacle of Austin's career, and obviously it was the beginning of his heel turn as well, which is something that we hadn't really seen too much from Austin since his early days. So yeah, I think that's what the sort of match did for his career.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. I mean, I feel that when you look at it with Steve Austin, we'd seen him for a babyface for so long. I think the
Mm,
face turn happened in 1997, so it'd been many years. I think it was like 4 full years as as a babyface. We'd almost forgotten the idea of what it was like as a heel turn. And Steve Austin at that point, it was almost unthinkable that he would do such a thing. And of course, he would go in to
mm,
do he would do quite well in the role. To be fair, I think a lot of fans were put off by the idea of him being heel. Everyone liked him as being that rebellious
yeah.
hero, but at the same time, when you look back and study some of his work since then, there's really some masterclasses, and we'll be touching on that one of my matches of my own.
Good stuff, definitely. And the final question is, what would we rate this match out of 5? Like, proper Dave Meltzer scale. And I personally would give this match 4.75. I think I would have given it a 5, but for me, I think the referee interfered a little bit too much. I thought there was way too much El Hebner. Obviously, it was a no DQ match, and I felt like he was trying to stop some of the violence sometimes. And yeah, I wasn't too sure about that one. What would you rate this match, Steve? I think.
I'm a little bit biased, I'm afraid, Aaron. So I'm going to go for the
Yeah,
full 5 stars. This is my
yeah.
favorite WrestleMania of all time, and to have a show that I think is near on perfect. I have to go with its main event and say that you could argue in the long term was the heel turn the right thing to do, but on that
Mm,
night it certainly had that wow factor. It was definitely one of the most shocking ends to WrestleMania. The only other way I think they could have done it, which could have been better in my opinion, they'd bought WCW the week before, and if Goldberg had come out and speared Austin out of his boots to finish off that show to start off the invasion there, I think that
yeah,
could have been the thing that would have been making it just that even that higher level if that's possible. But for me, no, I'm going for the full 5.
yeah. Saying that I can't argue with that, to be honest with you. Okay, so did you want to go with your third match?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with something very early into Steve Austin's run as a heel, because you mentioned there about the 2001 heel turn. And of course, he formed a 2-man power trip with Triple H, and they went on to become tag team champions. And on Raw, it was the May 21st, 2001 edition. There was a tag team title match with these two defending against Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho. Yeah, I know for some reason the Dudleys, the Hardys, Edge and Christian all seemed to have a night off. I don't know what was going on there. But this was a match that was very special in a way because obviously I think most people remember it from Triple H actually tearing his quadricep, but there was so
Yeah.
much excitement throughout the match. And one thing, studying Steve Austin through it, not only is the excitement of the tag team match, Steve Austin's heel work, you can see he's very on into that heel side. So he's doing things which is just, he's not doing his technical stuff. He's still got that brawling side, but he's purposely cheating. And
Mhm.
it's not that clean method, but it's just establishing Austin for what it is. And of course, for those that do you want me to go details of the match now and then break down the questions? Do you want me to how do you want to structure this?
Yeah, well, you can go through. You can go through the match, and then we can go through the questions afterwards. Just why you thought it was as good as it was.
Absolutely. Well, okay then. Well, I mean, you see with the heels cheating throughout, and obviously there's just
Yeah.
ways that the babyfaces managed to come back in. I mean, I remember Chris Benoit getting hold very early in the match, a cripple crossfacing, and Steve Austin obviously is in no position to tap out. How does he sort of get through it? Well, Triple H has to help him with a steel chair. That's the way that they kind of do that. I love the way we lead into the finish as well because with so many sort of like near falls and stunners, the crowd is very hot for it. We get to a point
Mhm.
where Jericho looks like he is going to be the one that's going to get the fall over Austin, and Triple H has to break the walls to Jericho. That's where he tears the quad. This leaves then Austin and Benoit left in the ring together. We see on the outside Triple H and Jericho on the table, and that's where we see the walls Jericho put on. We see a stunner in the ring, but the ref is
Mhm.
actually pulled outside from Jericho. This is after Benoit actually hit his diving headbutt trying to actually get the victory, but of course Austin was out of it, but the referee of course was detained with what was going on at the table. At this point, we see the referee is actually then taken out of the ring. Triple H is missing his sledgehammer on a fallen Steve Austin. Benoit then takes Triple H out of the ring. We see Jericho get the pinfall and the tag team champions are crowned. It's just one of them matches where you just see the place erupts. I think it's a
Mhm.
shock as well because I don't think many people would have said, as hot as Jericho and Benoit at the time, I don't think you'd have seen them walking away as tag team champions. I don't know if
Mm.
it was like a last minute decision with Triple H pulling the quad,
Yeah.
but certainly it was something very special indeed.
Yeah, it definitely meant a lot for Benoit and Jericho's careers. I think the fact that they beat two like bona fide main eventers like Steve Austin and Triple H. But yeah, that is interesting. What you do wonder whether that might have been called on the fly. Yeah, really interesting. But I thought that the pace of this match as well was just so great. It just never let up. And as you say, like the excitement levels were through the roof. Like the crowd were loving all of it. And I thought that hot tag from Jericho, I thought they built that up really well. Obviously, with Austin and Triple H healing that up by stopping Benoit from making the tag, just built and built and built, and then when Jericho comes in, it just goes bananas.
Yeah. Like you
Right,
say, though,
so
I mean, literally, if you blink, you miss a spot.
yeah, exactly. That's it, isn't it? So so we'll ask the second question. What was your favourite spot or moment of the match?
I mean, the most memorable, obviously, is Triple H with the quad there. But I mean, for
Yeah.
me, I like the fact that Steve Austin is, he's vulnerable in this match. He's WWE champion, but he is the one that is going to be beaten throughout this match. And obviously, Steve Austin the night previous at Judgment Day had accidentally cost Triple H the IC title. This was obviously clearly the idea where we're going to probably lead to Triple H versus Steve Austin further down the line, perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what they were building to before this Trips injury. But I think that the the sort of sledgehammer spot, I think, is something where you've got to remember that, because that takes Steve Austin out of the match, and then to give the victory to the baby faces, obviously that big crowd pop. Those are the most memorable parts for me, but definitely a very hot tag team match.
Definitely, definitely. And out of the 5 elements, which one do you think would be the best for this match?
I think we'd have to go for excitement on this one. Obviously, the fans
Yeah,
sometimes can make things hotter than what it is, and the fans on this particular night were very, very hot and very invested in this match.
yeah, definitely. And what do you think this match meant for Austin's career in particular? Even though there was 4 guys in there, but
Yeah, oh, I mean, the thing is, this is an early part into his heel run, and I'm sure that it's a proof and a testament that it could work, because obviously Austin was getting heavily booed by the crowd. People were saying he sucked, and it wasn't that same
mhm,
Austin that you saw at WrestleMania just a few short weeks or a couple of months earlier. So this just showed everything was working and falling into place as they went into the invasion angle.
yeah, definitely. I agree with that. And what would you rate this match out of 5, do you think?
I think I would go with like a solid 4 or
Yeah,
4.25 out of 5, because the excitement is really up there for it. And obviously, Steve Austin matches have that sort of ability anyway. And to show they can do it with a hillside as well. And everyone played their part to perfection. It's just a shame with the injury to Triple H. That was the one missed spot of the
yeah.
match. But for me, overall, I think this was solid. And I'm going to stick with a 4.25.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that actually. I think I'd go with 4.25 as well. Great match, like had like so much excitement. I thought the work rate was really good as well. Obviously with Jericho and Benoit, he was obviously a fantastic wrestler as well. But yeah, absolutely brilliant match. So we'll go with my second one, which is Triple H versus Stone Cold Steve Austin from No Way Out 2001 in the 3 Stages of Hell match. And I think the reason why this is one of my favorite matches is just because of how unique the match is. Obviously, hadn't been done before and hasn't been done since. So it just had, again, just a massive fight feel to it. And I just love how each stage in the match told a different story of his own. Obviously, we got like the technical wrestling in the beginning, and then the wild street fight in the middle, and then the nice culmination with the steel cage as well. Um, yeah, I loved it. It was just a great culmination to their feud. Like it just felt like a fight, not a wrestler match. I think sometimes when these big matches involve more like it's more of a technical match, sometimes it takes away from the feud itself, if you know what I mean. Like the street
Hmm.
fights, they do work with it. Just it feels like a massive feud. So that's definitely
Yeah,
why
no,
that would be.
absolutely.
And so my favorite spot of this match is actually the finish of the match, where Austin uses the barbed wire and Triple H uses the sledgehammer, and they both hit each other at the same time, and then Triple H falls on Stone Cold Steve Austin and wins the match. And I just love it how they're just both just selling it. Triple H is just laying straight on Austin's face, and they just look like they're dead to the world, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I really love that spot. I love the spot with the table in the second fall. I think the barbed
Yeah,
wire had just been introduced, and then I think it was supposed to be a hard pedigree going to be on the table, and Triple H gets
yeah,
flung over to
the-
the next table in the
yeah.
back body
Oh,
drop
that
spot.
was
I
it.
really like that.
That looks so painful. Like the look on Triple H's face, I do think that did sting him a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these two really went out it was a good 40 minutes. Like you said there, every match
Mm,
had a different layer, different part of story. And obviously, it was like 3 full matches on pay per view with the same two competitors. And the beautiful part was the selling as well, because each match you
yeah,
just spent, they were going through, they carried each injury, each moment over to the next
yeah,
match. So this is a testament to both of the athletes involved, and clearly, definitely one of the most. I wouldn't say underrated matches, but perhaps it's not mentioned or
yeah.
thought of
It's not
enough, in
talk.
my opinion. I don't hear enough people talk about it.
Yeah, that's the same with me. I think when people do talk about like great Triple H or great Stone Cold Steve Austin matches, this one doesn't really pop up too much. Um, as yeah, just not mentioned too much, which is a little bit strange. But we're mentioning it now, so it's all good.
Yeah.
So my favorite element of this match was probably the match structure itself. I was just really glad that each stage got given a lot of time. I think each one did last over 10 minutes, which is great. Obviously, in like 2 out of 3 falls matches, sometimes you really get like quick falls and then you get a really long, like extended portion of the match. But it was just great to see, like I said earlier, each stage of this match told a story in itself. Yeah, just really great pacing as well. I thought it was really well paced, not too fast, not too slow. They allowed for the selling, like we mentioned earlier, which was great. And yeah, I just thought it was the way it was laid out. Each stage just felt like a beginning, a middle, and an end. Like a steel cage is just a great finish to the feud and the match itself. So I really like that they did have the street fight and the steel cage matches of the second and third falls. Yeah, that'd definitely be my favorite element there. Do you think you'd agree with that one?
Absolutely. No, yeah, I think I would, because like you say, with the match structure, and the thing that's so beautiful, like you said, with the second fall and the third fall. I mean, the first fall was supposed to help Triple H, but actually, obviously, he fell into the stunner, and it was Austin's fall.
Mm,
The second was supposed to be Austin's match, and it fell into
yeah,
Triple H's hands,
yeah,
and then where he got the fall. Which was quite a fun twist. But also, like you said there, with the second fall, that usually a steel cage can hold a match into the ring and it takes away some elements. But where they'd already been around the ring in fall two, done the table spots, done all that stuff
mm,
around the ring, it kind of felt right to felt
yeah,
encaged, enclosed for that last one, because like you've had your fun where you could go wherever you want. Now you've got to finish it off. Two men in the ring, steel cage round you, who is coming out on top. And yeah, this was beautiful. It was just, it's one of the matches as well where I feel Austin, he comes out of a blaze of glory. He looks like $1 million in defeat. And not, a lot of times we say, oh, someone is buried or someone is harmed by being lost. But it feels in some of these matches, Austin comes up feeling even more credibility. The fact he's
mm.
even taken the loss.
Yeah, definitely. That was actually coming on to my fourth point, like what it did for Austin's career, and the fact that, well, firstly, able to put someone like Triple H over is massive, but yeah, coming up with that loss, and I find it interesting that this led up to the match with The Rock, which is where he did turn heel and he turned to the dark side, bringing Vince into it, and you wonder whether because he lost this match clean, he wasn't able to beat Triple H. Could that have been the reason why he had that motivation to turn heel? You never know.
No, you don't, and I think that you're on the money. Would be my point of saying if it was to say
Yeah,
it myself. So I think you took the words out of my mouth beautifully.
yeah, definitely. And if I was to rate this match, I think I would give this a 4.75 as well. Yeah, it was a fantastic match. I think the one little, like, I thought the selling was absolutely fantastic from everyone. I think because in the very first fall, they Triple H obviously attacked Steve Austin's leg, and I thought he sold that really well in the first stage, but maybe in the second and third stages we didn't see it too much. Um, but that would probably be that's like just a really small criticism. I'm probably being a bit too harsh on it, but maybe if I were to go back to watch it, I'll be like, oh, sod it. I'll just give it 5 stars.
Yeah. No, I think you're on the money. We have to find the nitpicks where we can. But I mean, for me, I think I'll go for a 4.5 out of
Yeah,
5. I think this was near on perfect. It was a long match, but you know what? The time flew by, and no credit
yeah,
to both gents because they put a hell of a showing.
definitely, definitely. So, what would you have for your second match?
So far, we've been in the year 2001. So I'm going to
Yeah,
rewind a little bit, if you don't mind. And
yeah,
I've got some notes prepared because if I miss something from this, I feel it'd be crucial because this match, I think, deserves all the justice it can be given because we're going back to 1998. We're going
nice.
over the edge. We're going Stone Cold Steve Austin. Newly, the Austin era has begun. He's going to be taking on Dude Love. That's right, for the WWE Championship. And of course, this is meant to be a normal singles match. And the thing I love about it is, I mean, we get these longer, sort of like over the top in ring promos. So Howard Fink brings out Pat Patterson to the ring as the special guest ring announcer. He makes a big song and dance about him. He's the first Intercontinental Champion, won the tournament back in Rio de Janeiro. They make every sort of fuss they can. Then he brings out Gerald Briscoe, who's going to then be the special timekeeper. They go in every
Yeah,
detail about his career, including, if you
yeah,
remember, the
yeah.
Briscoe
I
Brothers
remember
Body
this.
Shop. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah, I do remember that. You brought me back to it. Yeah,
Absolutely. They even give the phone number. I think it's just genius when they just literally go from digit to digit going from this ring. And I feel as well, they do the same with Vince McMahon. They say like the special guest referee. They had so many great memories together. They've laughed together, been through it
hmm
all. And it's just, I wonder, it's just they do all these big for these three. Obviously, it's to get the crowd completely wound up. But
Yeah,
I wondered,
definitely.
and this is a small part before I go further into the match, is I wonder if inspiration has come from WCW. I don't know if you've done a lot of the pay-per-views back in the day, but Michael Buffer did a lot of the in-ring announcing for WCW for those big events back in the days. And he'd always have this like long monologue as he brought people to the ring. I thought WWE may have taken this and used it and made it absolutely genius to the way to get the heels really over. Would you have seen that as a potential?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. I don't think Vince McMahon would admit it, but yeah, definitely. I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, that was around the time when WCW, became massive, wasn't it? So I could definitely see
Mm.
WWE looking at something like that and thinking, oh, we could make this even better. But yeah, definitely. That's a good show.
Yeah, and of course, then we get Dude Love that comes to the ring. He's got his full set of teeth, which he's not had for a while. He's had his hair
Hey.
done. He's wearing a blue blazer. Dude Love is looking like the man coming to the ring there, as good as he could look. And of course, then it comes to Steve Austin's one, and Pat Patterson's like, he's scum of the earth. He's terrible. I refuse to announce Austin. And obviously, his music hits. The crowd just go wild because it's like 15 minutes is literally these announcements. You'd think, well, that's tedious to listen to, but
Yeah.
the heat it gets is incredible. The match is about to start, and the Undertaker comes out as well to make sure that everything's going to go, above board. He's a babyface at the time, so and obviously that locker room leader as well, stuff that we know now that perhaps we wasn't as certain of then. So I like that little comment there. He's just standing on the ring steps. We go into the match then. Just to, as I say, I'm going to break it down for you because this is about a 30-minute match here.
Yeah,
Mick
do it,
Foley
man.
loses that teeth very early. He loses the teeth very early in the match. Steve Austin picks him and throws him in the crowd. One of my favorite lines here from Jerry Lawler. He says that Dude Love, he's lost his smile.
That's a good one. I like that.
Absolutely. So, because Michaels had not long left the company after the back injury at that point as well.
Yeah,
So, I wonder if that was a
of
bit of a
course.
film there.
Yeah,
And JR, of
it
course, being
was.
on his
It
top thing, like,
was.
yeah, and JR's literally like, oh god, like how dare you shut up, don't say stuff like that. Anyway, we go into the match. Of course, we saw those heel sort of tactics being used there, but Vince can't go over the top there, but slightly fast counts anyway. The action gets to the outside, and Austin's thrown over the announcer's table. Of course, realizing this can go towards the disqualification, Vince goes to Pat Patterson, and obviously Pat then goes as the ring announcer. It's now an ODQ match. Okay, where's this come from? They're just making up as they go along, obviously being the officials. Steve Austin then obviously counters Mick Foley while he's got the ring sort of cords around his neck. Foley goes straight into Gerald Briscoe, knocking him down to the ground as well. These two then fight as they go over the railing, and Mick Foley takes a hard clothesline that goes headfirst onto the concrete floor. To the crowd is going absolutely bananas. The action continues into the aisleway where Mick Foley hits a spinning net breaker onto the concrete. Of course, this is the point where then it's turned into a falls count anywhere match. And remember, this match was just supposed to be a straight up singles
Yeah.
match here as well.
Yeah.
So it's literally just chaos has gone everywhere. And we see then that these two will literally just head into where the cars were, the entrance. The Briscoe's body shop is there. We see like heads being bounced off of the cars. Austin goes for a stunner off the top of the car, but gets thrown off into another car instead. We see Foley going flying with an elbow. As we head towards the finish, though, obviously we get towards the end of the encounter. Steve Austin actually hits a solid steel chair to Mick Foley's head, to Dude Love's head, and it looks like
Yeah,
Vince
I
McMahon for the
remember
first time realizes dude's out of this. He's not getting up with this. So Vince
that. Mhm.
refuses to count the 3 count. He's not going to get involved. Austin then confronts Vince in the corner. Dude Love actually then gets up, picks up the steel chair, and he goes to hit Austin, but of course Austin gets out of the way. Classic, hits Vince instead, knocking him completely out. We see
Classic.
a stunner then hit. Absolute classic. The stunner's hit there, and the referee goes to a new referee comes in to make a 3 count. I think it's Mike Chioda that's coming to the ring. He's pulled out by Pat Patterson. Of course, the Stooges are there to make sure that Dude Love walks out as the new champion. Of course, none of this is accepted, though. The mandible claw is put on Austin. Pat Patterson wants to do the pinfall. Undertaker's seen enough of this. He's pulled Pat Patterson out of the ring. He's chokeslammed him through an announce table. Gerald Briscoe goes, well, I'll have to make the pinfall. Then he goes in to try and make the call while the mandible claw's on. Same thing again, straight through the table via the Undertaker. We see then, obviously, Mick Foley, Dude Love, he's up. It's not on the mandible claw anymore. Austin kicks in, hits the stunner. He's looking over, what can I do to get the 3 count? Vince McMahon's still out of it. He pulls Vince McMahon over. 1, 2, 3, actually using Vince's hand to get the 3 count. And of course, Steve Austin then remains the champion. And the
Yeah.
place absolutely Walkie erupts on this, and we get
Yeah,
there's not a friendship between Austin and Taker, but we get that nod of
the
respect at the
respect.
end there. But an absolute killer, a killer 35-minute match between these two.
Oh, I love that finish where Austin grabs Vince's hand. That's fantastic. That is. It's just so Austin, isn't it? It's just typical Steve Austin. It's great.
Yeah,
So
so much around the time.
definitely. So what was your favourite spot or moment of the match?
Right, so I've got a couple.
Yep.
The clothesline of the barricade cannot be ignored. The way that Mick Foley's head bounces off the concrete, it looks like a bit of a scary moment. It's full impact with that clothesline. It just sounds like a basic move, a clothesline, but it's with such pace and force. It's one of the real moments that really stands out of the match. But I think my other favourite moment, apart from the finish, because the finish is amazing, has to be the attempted stunner on the top of the Briscoe's body shop car, and then he gets thrown off onto another car and slides flying off the other side.
Yeah, definitely. There's a great moments. And out of the 5 elements, which one do you think is the best for this match?
God, well, it's
Or any
there's
of them?
excitement there, but you've got to go story, haven't you? Because it
Yeah.
is a story from start to finish. The heels are established, and there's a no-win situation for Austin. We've got Undertaker that's coming out and staring off here. That clearly sets up the Undertaker versus Mankind for Hell in a Cell at the next pay-per-view. And we all remember how that went for Mankind. So obviously, bad bumps on this one. It got worse a month later. But I mean, for Austin, it just signified that this was the rebel heel. This was the anti-hero. This was the guy that was the one to carry the company forward through the Attitude Era, that they'd made the right call with Austin, with all the hard work they've done over the previous year to 18 months to give him that moment, and then actually really kicking with this Austin and McMahon feud, taking it to another level. It's just beautiful from start to finish.
Yeah. Do you think that's what it did for Austin's career as well? Like really sort of ignited that feud between Austin and McMahon as well?
I would say so. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we did a retro not too long ago where we thought the
Yeah.
starting point actually happened at
Yeah, Hell
the
in a
Bad Blood
Cell.
pay per view in '97 with the Hell in a Cell, and obviously you look then and fast forward there those 6 months, the moments with Tyson and Austin as well, and obviously just the team stunners not wanting the corporate Austin as champion, then not accepting to be the corporate champion. Just all those sort of layers that where we go to and where it leads to going forward, and obviously these two would go on to feud for years, obviously until that magic moment of WrestleMania 17. So yeah, I mean, I think that this just signaled that the Austin era had not just begun, but it was here to stay.
Yeah, definitely. Well, best rivalry of all time, like some would argue, and with Vince and Steve Austin. So yeah, like I say, this just added another layer to it. It's fantastic. Definitely another underrated match, I think, that not too many people talk about. I think.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah, definitely. So what would you rate this match out of 5, would you say?
Well, going in it, I knew it was a good match. I was never fearful of that, but I sort of had myself like, oh, it's probably like a 4.25. But coming out and watching this, I mean, I actually watched this just recently, so I'm gonna have to go the upper echelon. So I'm gonna have to go to like the 4.5s, the 4.75 areas, because this really
Yeah.
had almost everything in it, and I was gripped from start to finish. 40 minutes when you're gonna watch something on the network feels like a long time. This flew by,
Yeah,
so
for
I'm gonna
sure.
go with a 4.75.
Lovely. I will admit I did not watch this match in my research, so I wouldn't rate it. But I think after how you've explained it there, I'm definitely going to go and rewatch this match, so I can give it a rating. Definitely. So with my final match, I'm going to go with Bret Hart versus Steve Austin from WrestleMania 13. Obviously, I think everyone knows about this match. What made it so good, like the double turn, was just absolutely masterful. Obviously, Bret Hart went into it as the babyface and Austin as a heel, and they just flip reversed it at the end. Just, just fantastic. The storytelling in this one was just brilliant. Again, with Bret Hart's just slow heel turn as it goes, with using like the eye rake later on when Austin tried to put in the sharpshooter, and using weapons on Austin as well, and just showing the frustration in his facial expressions was just absolutely fantastic. And another thing I liked about this match, that it had the brawling at the beginning, which did suit. Obviously, these guys just hated each other, and I liked that there was brawling, so it did feel like that. And then it went into a more technical matchup with Bret Hart going after Steve Austin's leg. Really, really enjoyed the psychology of that, because obviously Austin was out for a while, wasn't he, with his injured legs. And it also sets up for the sharpshooter, which is in the finish of the match. So just great psychology, great storytelling in this one. And again, the crowd were absolutely loving it. just that finishing spot where Bret Hart has the Austin in the sharpshooter and he's just bleeding and the crowd are just going wild for Austin. You just hear the Austin chants. It's just such a great moment in wrestling. Do you think you'd agree? Do you think you'd agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, this would have been in my top three as well. I absolutely loved this match. I think that I had the pleasure of watching this actually last night. I did publicise it on Twitter as well. I was doing so, and it got quite a lot of likes for a match from being 1997. Um, a lot of people argue this is one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, and like you
Yeah,
said, I
hands
just
down.
love the structure of the way the match was put together. Like you said, the start, it doesn't even start in the ring. The way that they sort of brawl around the outside, they go through the crowd,
Yeah,
which at that time the crowd didn't seem so used to being people fighting through them. It
yeah,
felt kind of special and fresh in 1997. The fact as well, like you said, that sort of slow heel turn out throughout the match there, and the usage of like when Austin could get himself back into the match, but Bret Hart like using the ring bell just to knock him down to the ground. It just everything with the structure of this match and the way it was done, and it was quite violent for the time as well. You know,
yeah.
we weren't sort of used to this. It was still that new generation. We wasn't quite in the Attitude Era, but this
You
was
could
one of the
see
most violent
the
matches around that time.
Yeah, definitely. You could see the like the sort of beginnings of it. I think even like when they did go into the crowd, like how commentary put it over, they all looked quite a bit shocked. And Vince was like, "Oh, we don't have the cameras to go into the crowd or anything." Like they had some funny camera angles going on. Yeah, I love that bit when they went into the crowd. The crowd just went mental for that as well. Yeah, it was just great that they had just so many different parts of this match, but they sold it brilliantly. I thought Austin's selling as well in this match was really good. The way he sold his legs throughout was awesome. Sometimes he couldn't like hit certain moves, so that was great to see. Um, yeah, so my favorite part of this match, and I think most people would probably agree with it, it's just got to be the finishing visual, hasn't it? Of Brett having Austin in that sharpshooter. The moment, I think the best moment in there is just when he's sort of reaching up, he sort of gets out of it slightly, but Bret Hart keeps that sharpshooter locked in and gets him back on the floor, and just Austin's face is just covered in blood, and eventually he passes out. But that would be my favorite moment of this match. Do you think you'd agree, or do you think you'd go with something different there?
No, it's one of the most iconic moments in wrestling history,
Yeah.
and it's amazing what a bit of blood and you know that sort of like almost
Mm.
merciful you're getting on their side moment because it's the same thing that happened with Becky Lynch, obviously that big accident where she was punched in the face on Raw, and
Yeah,
that's where
yeah,
the
definitely.
character took off when she was in the
Very
stands there, and
similar.
I'd even argue Britt Baker,
Yeah, I
the
was going to say
DMD
Britt
thing,
Baker.
it took off with the Thunder Rosa match, the way it, you know, and even with the Kara Shida the year earlier, she had these couple of blood moments, and it's really added to the integral part of her character, and
Mm,
ultimately it makes these people what that makes them the complete package because people get on
definitely.
side with everything they're doing as well. And Steve Austin here was probably almost the original of what we see with this, and it's such an iconic moment, and it's in that there where Bret Hart gets the victory, and it's not enough, and then obviously we see the crowd
Yeah,
turning on Bret because Shamrock has to break it up, and then obviously we see Austin stun the referee because he doesn't want help, he refuses to let
yeah,
anyone get near him, and obviously then he's like he's hobbling out to the crowd just shouting Austin. So it's bloodthirsty. It's a rivalry that comes to its finish, but well, it's not really come to its finish. It does carry on after this, but it
yeah. It
feels
does.
like it's that personal. It does feel like that personal feud ended kind of feeling at the time, but
Yeah,
it's personal to where it started to where it is. It's gone up every level it's needed to, from like obviously the Royal Rumble where Steve Austin's screwed Bret Hart out of that Royal Rumble victory, how they were sort of almost cancelling each other out at Final Four at the In Your House pay-per-view to lead them to that moment. It's gone up so many different levels from where it began.
yeah. 100%, 100% agree with that. I definitely like, it was such a great way to build Austin's character as well. The fact that he passed out and didn't give up, I think that just made him that much more popular with the fans as well. That they could sort of sympathise with him, and I'm really glad that they didn't have Bret Hart bleed. Actually, I think the fact that it was only Austin that bled made that double turn that much. Yeah, it made it easier for it to happen. If you know what I mean, that Bret Hart didn't bleed because it looked like Austin was the one that took more punishment from Bret. Definitely made Bret look more like the heel. I thought.
I would have to agree 100%.
Yeah, and favorite element for me just has to be the story. For me, I think it was absolutely amazing. Just how each man just gradually turned into their roles. Obviously, Austin did keep up with more of his sort of That's the thing with Austin. You could say he used like heel tactics, but when it comes to Austin, it's just something he would do in any match when he was a face in the future. He just doesn't care, does he? Um,
No.
yeah, like you said earlier, just how it just felt like a blood feud between these two. Just really well told story, I thought. Do you think you'd agree with that, or go with something different?
Yeah, you have to go with the story. You have to go with the psychology. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
everything about this match and how, from each pinpoint moment, how they got to the point where Bret Hart was getting a finger walking back down the aisle from fans. So it's like you've done a
yeah,
story so well where Austin's coming booed on the way in and cheered on the way out. They told the story to perfection, and
yeah.
arguably, I think this has to be up there with the top three WrestleMania matches of all time.
It's got to be. It's always spoken in there with obviously. I think a lot of people say the Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, but everyone always comes back to this match, and rightfully so. Like it is fantastic. Obviously, what this match meant for Austin's career, perhaps this might have been Austin's most important match in terms of making him the star that he was. I think this match definitely was the match that elevated him into superstardom. I know obviously they had that King of the Ring where he gave the promo Austin 316, but the fact how the fans reacted to Austin's face turn here and saw him as that sort of that working champion, that man who represented the working man. Go obviously later on he goes head to head with Vince, but just him as this badass sort of tweener character, yeah, just definitely established him as a top superstar in the company. Do you think you'd go with that one as well?
I'd have to, because this like you said, the King of the Rings where it started, it was where it was born, but here was where we saw almost like the boy become the man, and
Mm,
from this point we knew Austin was going to become something, and credit as well, because this shows how long-term booking the storylines can really pay off, because Steve Austin from there carried on that rivalry for Brett for a little while, but obviously he didn't get to himself into the championship match and winning that championship to the next year at WrestleMania 14. That's where the Austin era began, where he defeated Shawn Michaels, which is a match I would have loved to have included on this list, but of course, it just didn't quite make the grade. Shawn was probably,
yeah,
not up to it with his back injury, but the importance of stuff with Tyson being there as well, it was all
it
very,
was a
very
big
special, but
match.
it didn't quite make the grade for this sort of three matches each that we've got. But certainly, I would have to agree with you that this is probably the most important match in Steve Austin's career when you look back at it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, hands down. And to give this match a rating, it's got to be a 5-star match for me. I can't fault it, to be honest with you. I think it's just perfect in every facet. To be honest, what would you grade it? Do you think?
It has to be a 5. I mean, I could even go full on Dave and give it a 7-star rating.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying not to break the 5-star ratings with Dave. I know some people do criticize him, but I'll tell you what, if there's any match which deserves that, it's this one. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it?
It's a different level completely
Yeah,
altogether.
definitely. And did you want to give your last match then?
Yes, well, I mean, obviously, we've talked about the physicality, the personal, and perhaps the story leading up to it. How about where it all began versus Bret Hitman
Yeah,
Hart? I'll go back to the Survivor Series 1996 here. And this match, I mean, this is a match that's basically built off respect, because Austin, I think he's had enough of seeing Bret Hart in that position. I think he wants to be Bret Hart. He wants to be that top guy. And obviously, he's a heel at the time, not long come off, obviously, that King of the Ring win, like you talked about there, probably a few months later on down the line. And what I like about this match is the story. It's built off this sort of mixture of like a technical style, but a lot of counter wrestling, rest
yeah,
holds, submissions. It's got all that sort of layers put into it. And I really like the way that Austin is not seen as the guy that is on Bret Hart's level, but he proves himself in this match that he's not far
yeah,
off. And he doesn't win this match either. And he does get frustration kicks in there, because obviously Bret Hart does kick out of the stunner. But then you see some horrific looking spots for the time period as well. Bret Hart being thrown across the ring. He always has that buckle where he runs into it perfectly usually, but
yeah,
he has this one where he actually goes and slides, and he
Yeah,
goes stomach first into the ring post. It's a painful looking spot.
mm,
Steve Austin as well. I remember as well one part of the match where Bret Hart's on the announcers table outside. Again, this is 1996, not very common ground you'd see. And Austin coming off doing his sort of, Austin elbow off of there to land on the Bret Hart as well. So there's some really sort of cool spots on this. And Bret Hart, of course, usually always would finish his matches off with a sharpshooter back then. That was the way Bret finished all of his matches, but he wasn't able to do it. Austin
yeah,
had clearly had this scout. And it comes to that sort of counter wrestling. He knew how to get out of it, but Steve Austin knew how to get on the $1 Million Dream. He got his submission hold on. And Jim Ross actually said throughout the match, he saw this match finishing through submission because neither guy had actually given up in their career. He said, I see the submission being the key to this match. And it was something you always need to keep an eye on. And what I thought was beautiful, we got that sort of recreation of WrestleMania 8, the same match we had with Bret Hart and Roddy Piper, where that move is put on and Bret Hart has to sort of throw his legs onto the turnbuckle and he counters it into a pinning combination where he's on top of the guy that's got the submission. Of course, in hindsight, yeah, Steve Austin should let go of the submission hold, but obviously he's stuck with that move on. And obviously, I suppose back then it told a better story and it felt it lived up to it. We've seen a lot more criticism with that sort of finish now, but I really liked it. And I think it played into this story of it perfectly. So I think that it's amazing where we see where we were at WrestleMania 13, but sometimes as well, I like to go back here to where we began because this was where the rivalry wasn't as personal at this point. So this had that big fight feel and I really enjoyed it. And it was in Madison Square Garden as well, which is always very special.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree with you. I think like as in terms of like a work rate and wrestling, this match was absolutely brilliant. Like you say, loads of counter wrestling, all the submissions, and I agree with the finish. The fact that Bret Hart couldn't get in the sharpshooter, I think that did wonders for Austin's career. The fact that Bret didn't win with that super sharpshooter, which is obviously how he beat a lot of other people, and the fact that he only won with a roll up, which meant it was just so close for Austin to nearly win that match. But yeah, fantastic match. What would you say is your favourite moment of the match or spot? Because you did say there are a few cool ones.
Yeah, there were a few cool ones. I mean, obviously, I think the turnbuckle one, I think with Bret, there has to be a standout, but I do like the finish because the finish plays into that story very, very nicely. And we just to very quickly mention, just before I go back to you, we mentioned there about how Steve Austin, he got out the sharpshooter here. He didn't submit to it at WrestleMania either. So it shows that Austin never was one to give up. And obviously, it just showed that I'll probably argue we made WrestleMania 13 that even that bit more special, if you could argue when you look further down the line. But going to a moment on this match, I love the finish, but if I had to pick a moment in the match, it has to be that turnbuckle spot with Bret Hart because it looked quite painful.
Yeah, awesome, definitely. And which of the 5 elements would you rate the highest in this video, in this match?
Well, obviously the story is important, but we said story a lot, so I'm going to go for the wrestling on this one. It's actually the performance I think has to stand out because it's two great wrestlers telling a great story, but it's actually a well-delivered match. Like it's probably again, I'd say underrated. Everyone goes to the WrestleMania 13, but if you're a big fan of Bret Hart and Steve Austin, go to the Survivor Series 1996. I think it's a good, refreshing watch when you go back over and check it out.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the wrestling. Going back and watching a lot of these Austin matches, this one definitely stood out for me. And I think it just goes to show that obviously before Austin had his neck problems and had to resort to like a brawling sort of style, the man could wrestle. Like before then, he was as good as anybody, to be fair, with his technical work. So yeah, I'd 100% agree with you there. And what do you think this match meant for Austin's career?
Well, I mean, obviously, this must have given the faith for him to win the Royal Rumble in 1997. He's put in a very high spot on this card here to actually go in and face Bret Hart on a Big Four pay-per-view. This guy, in WCW, obviously, he's had some great matches there, but never got above that mid-card area, that television title, US title. Great matches with the likes of Ricky Steamboat, Clash of the Champions, or if you go back to the Dangerous Alliance with the War Games match in 1992 at Wrestle War. But at the same time, I mean, you look here, they've put faith in Austin. They obviously fought him when he came as the ringmaster. He goes to Stone Cold Steve Austin. They give him the King of the Ring. He's had a big rivalry with Savio Vega as well. One match we didn't mention as well. There was the famous Beware of Dog match with the strap match as well. Another great match there to go and check out. But I mean, mean, like, you look and see throughout it, there's trust put in Steve Austin, and to be put in this match, you can see the leap of faith really given here. And the fact is, he's took it with both hands. That they went, right, okay, you've took this so well. Go to the next level. Let's see what you do at the Royal Rumble. And remember, at Royal Rumble, he was number 5, if I'm not mistaken, entering in that match. He was an early one for sure.
Yeah, that's a good show. I didn't think that the connection between this one and Royal Rumble, that they saw this match and they're like, just give this guy the rocket, let him win the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
Deserves it. And what would you rate the match out of 5?
I'm going to go for a 4.25. It doesn't have perhaps some of the glitz and glamour that you could say of some of these other ones, like the blood and the gore and the weapons and stuff, and going down the aisles and stuff. But for a great technical in-ring perspective, this deserves as high a praise as it can get. But I definitely say a 4.25 is definitely worthy of this match.
Yeah, I think I'd go for either a 4 or maybe a 4.25, one of those two for sure. I'd say the wrestling really and the story work definitely lifted this one up. The psychology was great as well, but like you say, maybe not too much of the excitement or the glitz and glamour. Anything else to add, do you think? Or
I mean, there's a number of matches we could have mentioned, and we didn't.
yeah,
I mean, that's
there
the
are so
fun
many.
part. I mean, there's Kurt Angle from SummerSlam 2001,
Yeah,
Owen
I
Hart,
did
of course,
watch that
SummerSlam
one.
1997. There's some great matches there with Steve Austin that we could have gone down. And one of my favorites as well, we mentioned obviously they had a trilogy, Austin and The Rock at WrestleMania 15, and WrestleMania 19 is a match that always holds dear in my heart. Obviously, it's the last one with Austin, but WrestleMania 19 is one of my favorite shows in the world. So I was so tempted to include Rock and Austin from this show, but I felt we could only do one double. I thought we could only do one double, and I thought to myself that I know The Rock probably seen as the greatest rival, but at the same time, that story of Bret Hart, I think, can't be ignored.
I definitely agree with you there. Definitely. Well, I'll wrap it up there then. Yeah, thanks for joining me, Steve. That was awesome to do this video with you. So what have you got coming up for your channel then? I know you did sort of plug it earlier, but what sort of videos have you got coming up, just so everybody knows?
Yeah, well, I've done a video very recently on how I would book Drew McIntyre from Hell in a Cell onwards until WrestleMania 38. So that video is already on the channel as of the time you'll be watching this. Probably by the time you see it as well, I will be doing NXT TakeOver in your house predictions as well. Will be on the channel also. So we've got Q&As as well. We've got the recorded Q&A on Sundays, and live Q&A is usually on a Wednesday, but this week it was on Thursday, and joined by the fantastic Ella J, who will be the guest with me on this occasion.
Great stuff, great stuff. Okay then, guys, well, make sure to check out all the matches that me and Steve have recommended. Let us know what your favorite Stone Cold Steve Austin match in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to myself and subscribe to Steve as well. I'll post both of I'll post Steve's link in the comment section down, or in the description down below. Please leave a like on the video, hit the notification bell, and share it. I hope you all have a great day, guys, and we shall see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for having us. Bye.